So originally I did this design exercise where I had 3 gloves with different levels of technology, and I have a video about this glove done previously, and this is now about the second glove, talking about the texturing methods for concept design inside 3D code. Also, I showed you how to do a more complex version of the glove in the masterclass at IMX, so if you want to check it out, the link is at the top and also in the description. Okay, so here I start with my arm already go. What I did first, I filled up everything with the depth layer. So now I have I inflated the whole thing, and then I'm starting to remove some of these volumes. Then I decrease the depth. And what I like about this workflow that you have this a lot of have this kind of sculpting abilities in texturing. And you can design a whole bunch of surfaces that way. So right now what I'm doing, I'm using curves because I want to have like a controllable surface. I'm drawing the lines, and then I can modify the lines. So I'm doing a top-down projection just from the top. And what I want to do then, I want to pick all these lines and then bevel them with the bevel button. And now just carry on. And I'm trying to fill it with the brush stroke, and I can do that. So I just hit enter and it will fill the curves with the brush stroke. Before I had a brush stroke that was too big, so I had to make it a bit smaller. So I dragged and dropped that curve step across. So I just want to smooth this out a little bit, and you can see I have a projection that didn't go really well, so I want just to remove it. Some of the issues that you'll anticipate with curves here and there. Now I'm just testing different designs. Essentially, I'm just removing thickness, adding thickness. Here I decided to add some buttons, and I'm using just black color, extra glossiness. And it's kind of free from design process. So you can see I'm just starting to do stuff, then I've stopped doing it. Here I'm trying to drag a brush using the curve tool, like a curve brush, but it didn't work out. So I just ended up painting it. So painted some buttons. So it's kind of like an idea of a synthetic glove with some controls and maybe a virtual reality control, who knows. Just removing some layers and reducing the glossiness was way too much, so I just reduced the roughness on the layer. And now I'm just thinking about different fills, and I wanted to do it by hand, but then I decided to reuse the curves to add a new line with the color. So obviously this is like way too thick, so I was like thinking about a better way to approach it. Like hiding and unhiding stuff. So here I'm just thinking to create a mask essentially for the other part of the hand. And I don't really care about the bottom part, I'm just doing the top part. And I like how we have these different white colors, right? So we have white, half of the glove, then we have just another white, but make it semi-transparent. Regulate the depth again, so it's not too thick, the overall depth layer. And I'm thinking what kind of designs I can do here, so I'm just dragging some lines across. And I decided to go with some kind of pattern, right? So I have a from camera pattern, and I'm doing the stencil projection. And maybe one finger is like a touch finger, so I made it black, the tip of it. Now I'm doing a different pattern. And I decided to go for like a bumpy projection. So I have the depth activated. But depth is pretty low value, as you can see, it's at 11%. So I'm trying a different pattern. And those patterns I bought from ArtStation, so I will share the link in the description. I think it was like a couple of dollars, really. So I'm just removing the extras using the eraser and a rectangular tool. So and I'm pretty happy with the pattern. And then I thought maybe that white is just too white. Strong, the contrast was way too strong, so I decided to tone it down, and eventually I removed it. Actually, I removed all the white. Here I'm using the curves to draw a brush with a bumper on it. So now I have more of a seam along the two halves of the glove, which I think is looking pretty good. And now I filled it up with a white color. So now we have essentially a seam that's more visible. There's different like glossiness on that seam. And I'm trying to keep the stuff pretty subtle. So I'm working more with the materials, like different types of rubber, plastic, different levels of roughness, and less so about the colors themselves. So now I'm thinking to draw a little like screen on the hand. So I'm drawing the rectangular stripes, and that already looks like, there's a lot of roughness. There's like a lot of glossiness. It starts to look like this flexible LCD screen. And then I wanted to make some kind of a seam around that LCD screen, and I didn't try the rectangular tool, didn't like how it looked, so I decided to go with the curve tool again. So I'm just drawing the curve around, and then picking all those guys around and beveling them, and now making my brush smaller and doing the seam around the LCD screen. And doing this also some seam cuts, just using a rectangular tool and depth set, like at pressing Control and doing it at -11 essentially. So I'm looking where I can do that, those depth projections. Some places look good, other places don't look good, so I'll keep adding and removing. And I'm thinking about making like a gradient of the pattern, so it's not universally the same across the whole hand. So I'm using a eraser tool and erasing the depth a little bit. And then I'm doing this little kind of cuts, if those were some kind of sensors at the tips of the finger. You can see I have a lot of layers. Now I'm getting a bit confused with the layer naming. I should have named them better. to have a better control, and I start to name them. Now I'm also using gradient to paint these super glossy fingers, so I thought it was kind of cool. Again, playing with the materials, playing with the roughness, not as much with color. So I use the big brush, painted the gradient. There we go, we have it. I'm trying to modify a layer, changing the lightness and saturation. Not sure if I did much at all. So I have a preview. And adjustment, texture adjustments, they're quite a bit of pain inside 3D code, unfortunately. So now I just want to make some silver contacts. So I set metalness at 100%. And so it looks like I have some kind of metallic sensor inside. And just paint them everywhere. You can see I'm not really like highly precise or anything. I'm testing the paint across other parts to see how that metallic paint will react. And the cool thing is that you can turn this into the mesh. You can turn it into voxels with all that information kept there. You can also texture voxels, but I prefer the actual texture in surface mode. Doing another kind of white paint. You can see here I'm just removing the extras. And since I don't care about the bottom shot, I didn't do the bottom of the glove. I am happy with what I have. I think I'm doing some cleanups here. Just maybe too much of the paint, so I want to make a little bit skinnier white line, and I didn't like it, so it's constant like back and forth progress, adding and removing, adding and removing. You can see a bit of flickering happening. The projection tool is not really fast, unfortunately. Every time I say project, it will like freeze for a few seconds and then project. Sometimes even camera can jump away. It's a bug. And then it will jump away, then come back to the main screen. But pretty much the sculpting here was done, and the latter part I did in Photoshop. I did a tiny bit of detail in Photoshop. I did the final touch in Photoshop, so this interface comes actually from my friend Evgeny Radigin, a link in the description if you want to check his stuff. He did UIs for Avatar, second Avatar, so he's a great UI artist. And then I just played stuff like this. I could have done it in 3D code as well. I knew I would make it faster inside Photoshop. Then at the top I have some vignetting that just pushes the highlights, and also a color lookup table, a LUT table, that provides extra push for contrast and make it a bit more punchy for the viewer. And as well, I have an unsharp mask on everything, so it makes everything a little bit sharper, so sharpening the image just a little bit. So thank you for watching, and let's see you guys in the next video.